A week into the war on Iran, and the US is promising an escalation, a threat Tehran has responded to with more strikes in Qatar and Saudi Arabia. But whatever form the escalation takes, US President Donald Trump has ruled out involving American boots on the ground. Mr. Trump says sending soldiers to Iran would be a waste of time. One thing he does want, though, is a say on the new ruler. And he thinks the son of the slain Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei is an unlikely choice. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian confirms some countries have begun mediating in the conflict. He gave no further details, saying they remain committed to peace in the region, but are ready to defend their dignity and authority. Israel also expects the war to drag on. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says much work still lies ahead. Israel has just issued large-scale evacuation orders for at least 4 towns in eastern Lebanon, where it's targeting the Iran-backed Hezbollah. Beirut estimates more than 95,000 people have been displaced since Israel extended its attacks beyond Iran. Now, over in Qatar, officials confirm naval forces were inside buildings Tehran had targeted overnight. No casualty has been reported. Saudi Arabia also confirms intercepting Iranian drones over an airbase near US Army assets in Riyadh. Now, with a clear threat of escalation, the EU Defense and Space Commissioner warns that US missiles supplies may be stretched thin between the Gulf countries, Ukraine, and its own army. And for more, we have Nick Harper covering this story for CNA live from Washington. Now, Nick, as we've heard, the EU Defense and Space Commissioner says that the US military capacity is under strain. Given the Ukraine war is dragging on, does he have a point there?
Well, he perhaps does, but Donald Trump doesn't want to listen to it. He has suggested that the United States is looking in a very strong position when it comes to munitions, but he has warned that this could last 4 weeks, 5 weeks, potentially even longer. There is a real concern that this could drag on for weeks, maybe months to come. But in comments this week, Donald Trump insisted that the US had virtually unlimited supplies of weapons. We do know that behind the scenes, though, there has been a little bit of concern. Back in January, Donald Trump signed an executive order pushing munitions companies to effectively work faster and harder to provide more ammunition at a quicker rate and trying to push them into investing more in their facilities so those production hubs are safeguarded, they're shored up, but also they're able to produce more. But you mentioned Ukraine. Of course, that is a country that the United States has been supplying a vast amount of arms to during the more than 4-year conflict. It has reduced US stockpiles as a result. And we have seen, as a result of that, in the last year, Donald Trump getting NATO countries to buy US arms rather than just giving them to Ukraine for free. And Donald Trump this afternoon will be convening a meeting at the White House where he's expected to meet arms executives, big ones like Lockheed Martin, RTX, L3 Harris, coming to the White House to really discuss strategy from a longer term point of view, how they can more quickly produce ammunition that they can provide to the US military as part of its ongoing campaign in Iran. And there's no suggestion that the US is at a point where it is running out of ammunition, but there is that concern. If this drags on for weeks and weeks, what position that would put the US in, and whether or not those stockpiles, which up until now have been quite secure, would be significantly reduced because of that ongoing action against Iran.
Meanwhile, the US and Israel is warning of escalation on one hand, but President Trump is also saying that there will be no soldiers on the ground. So what exactly might an escalation look like then? Might we see Trump trying to strong-arm his allies, perhaps?
Yeah, there's potential different routes this one could take. And I would say the president, although he's saying there won't be boots on the ground, has also said that he's not ruling it out. I mean, that is a possibility, but we know that it's something that Americans do not want to see, especially after wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Recent polling this week showed that 3 in 5 Americans now oppose this conflict. The majority of Americans think that Donald Trump's decisions to take military actions has left the United States less safe. So putting boots on the ground is simply not a position many Americans want to see the US in. We've already seen Donald Trump pushing the Kurds in Iraq and Iran to rise up and to take Tehran. We know that they want their own country, their own state of Kurdistan. Donald Trump is presenting this to them as an opportunity of achieving that, but perhaps also toppling any of the regime leadership inside Iran. He's also pushing other allies to do more. We've seen that in the fallout with the UK this week. Donald Trump making disparaging remarks about the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, because initially Starmer was not allowing the US to use UK bases. A big falling out between the UK and Spain, because Spain won't get involved in the way that Donald Trump wants. So pushing allies as well. And then there is the issue of Ukraine, not just the munitions that the US might take from Ukraine to use against Iran, but really the whole peace process. That is now seemingly on the back burner as Donald Trump is pushing ahead with his plans for the Middle East instead.
Nick, thank you so much for that update. That was Nick Harper covering the story for CNA live from Washington, D.C.